welcome. My name is Richard Ansar, and welcome to this training this evening, or I call it training, just a live I decided to do. So either you're in my private group right now, or you're watching live via YouTube, or you're on my Facebook page. Welcome, wherever you are. And if you're going to watch the replay, again, welcome. So thank you for making the time to join me this evening. I haven't put out any live content in a little while. Just been really busy training in the private group and other projects going on in the background. So I thought, let me just catch up with everyone, see how everyone's doing, and more importantly, try and answer some questions that I'm sure people are going to ask. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to get my Facebook page up just really quick because some people had asked some questions there. And obviously, I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and comments. So if you have any questions or anything this evening, then I'll do my best to answer it. So we've got Gorby on the I can see. So hello and good evening back to you as well. Thank you. Just give me a second. Let me jump onto on my group and get the page up. If you hear any funky background replication, I apologize in advance. So give me a second. Where are we? Just going to get the questions up here. Brilliant. Okay. Right. So had a few questions. So let me go ahead and start answering them. That would be a good start. So we've got a question came in from Stelios, and he says, "Hi Richard, I would ask what steps do we take to create a private trust in layman's terms?" So I can answer that in a second. Another one that came through, what is the purpose of setting up a private trust and the benefits? What types of trust can be set up? That's for Angela. Do you have to pay monthly, annually, one-off payment fee? I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'll do my best to answer that. Tina Louise has asked a very interesting question. Is Rolex a private trust and foundation? Which I don't know, but it's a good question. And if so, would it be possible to mirror their structure for starting something in the UK? Would you be able to facilitate setting it up? I wish I could, but I'll answer that in a minute. Yeah, so those are the questions that's come through so far, and obviously I'll keep an eye out on the chat. So we've got questions about the course that I provide, so I'll come back to you in a bit on that one, Gorby, so I don't forget. If anyone is interested in the membership that I offer, let me just post that on here now. But not to get distracted, it's just in case I forget to tell you later on. But yeah, give me 2 seconds. I'll put that in the chat now. It's quite a long bit of information, but it's there for your enjoyment. So I'll just post that in the group. So if anyone's interested in, you can check it out in your own time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is share my screen, and we can then start to answer some of the questions. So let's get to it. Okay. Right, so hopefully you should all be able to see my screen now. Okay, if you can, just type in a Y. I'd really appreciate that. If you can see it on YouTube, we've got some people on YouTube, we've got some people on Facebook. So I'm assuming you can see my screen okay. Right, I'm just going to take off this comment regarding the... There we go. I'll show that a bit later on if still people want to find out. Right, so first question, let me go ahead and answer that. Hi, we've got Facebook user. So thank you for saying yes to see my screen. I do appreciate that. I can't see your name unless you give Facebook permission, depending on if you're on the page. If we can see your name, I'd be really appreciated. But obviously, I respect your privacy as well. So the first question is, from Stelios. So I'll answer that. So he says, and I'm going to write it out, and then you have to excuse my funky doctor's handwriting. I am working on it, I promise. But I'll do my best to keep it as neat as possible. So it's a question from Stelios, and I'm going to just my best handwriting so I don't butcher his lovely name, Stelios Stavru. Okay, so he's asked the question. Where are we? What steps do I take to create a private trust? I just want to write it out so at least everyone's on the same page. What steps do I take to create a private trust? Now, it's a really good question. It's quite a loaded question, but I'm going to do my best to keep it simple and to the point. So, in terms of what steps you need to take, firstly, you need to understand how a trust works. Okay, so you need to get some training somehow. There's lots of information banding about. I'm not saying you have to learn via me, but there's some great books out there you can definitely get access to. I have some information on my YouTube channel which goes through that. My YouTube channel is if you just search you probably, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already on the channel, so that's good. If you're not, understanding UK private trusts. So I go in quite a bit of detail in my channel. Okay, if you want to check that out for free, I do mention some books on there which you can check out and invest in yourself. Let me see if I can find anything really quickly. That's how I pretty much started. The only challenge that I have about the internet, sometimes there's a lot of noise, and you don't want to go down down the rabbit hole. That's not going to help you. That's the only thing. So what I took away is a lot of information and a lack of direction, and I'm very big on education. So at some point, you probably might have to invest in your education if you want to take it further. Okay. However, to get started, I'm going to try and post some links for you to check out. So, sorry about that background noise. I'm going to go one here. This is frequently asked questions. Let me post that in the group. I hope you can get access to that if I post it as a link. Do you guys get access? Can you actually click that as a link? Just let me know if you can. I don't want to waste anyone's time in the comments. Hopefully you can. If not, it should be available in a replay. Another one, the channel itself has got lots of stuff. So what I'm going to do is just post the channel, and that would actually be a lot better if you don't have access to it at the moment. Definitely check out that. Books are my favorite. I will highly recommend a chap called Alistair Hudson, Professor, let me not be rude. Professor Alistair, no, it's not his Alistair Hudson, okay. I believe his book's called Equity and Trusts, any edition, okay. Very good, very good indeed. One of my favorite authors, probably one of my top five, is, I think he's a professor now, Professor Gary Watt. Okay, he was at Warwick. I'm not sure if he's still there, but a fantastic, excellent teacher. He's got some real good books. So good, the basic ones. When I say basic, not to make it sound elementary, but he just breaks it down in real plain English, which I think it's called. Let me just double check. Here we go. Equity and Trust Directions. Can you see that? Can you see that equity and trust direct? Let me take off my screen for 1 second. Equity and trust directions. Gonna focus on the camera. Come on, camera. Get in focus, get in focus, get in focus, get in focus. There we go. Equity and Trust Law Directions by Gary Watt. Yeah, probably a newer edition in this one. Highly recommended. First few chapters, just breaking down the basics of a trust. Search your subject matter, understand what a trust is, what is a res. I would highly recommend you invest in yourself for the first steps of learning about private trusts. Without a doubt, you need to know that. Again, come back to the questions, make sure I've answered it correctly. So that's the first steps I'll take. Obviously, and you say in layman's terms, those books, in my opinion, break it down in layman's terms. Okay, if you are still finding that a challenge, now I'll be honest, I don't follow anybody else on the internet who teach trusts. So I'll leave that to you to do your own research. But if obviously you found me, you can definitely join the Facebook group if you're not already. You're part of the YouTube channel. If you want to get more information, check out the membership. I'll be honest, I enjoy my teaching. I've got over 100 members at the moment. Over the last 10 years, I've been just teaching this as a passion. It's a lovely subject to learn. And I do a weekly training on private trust, so you can definitely join that and check out everything we've done since last year. A whole brand new series for 2020, 2021, talking about trust, going through the basics over again, so you've got access to that. Okay, and I've put a link already in there. I don't want to use it as a plug-in session, but at the end of the day, I teach trust. So if you want to get that knowledge, it's definitely available to you. All right. But again, if you want to keep it really simple, YouTube channel, those books, okay, Hudson's books, Alistair Hudson, Equity and Trusts. Let me just show you this one again, if the camera will get in focus. Equity and Trusts, Alistair Hudson. Friend, I know it looks a bit chunky. Just stick to the earlier chapters 1 to 3, okay, and just read. All right. And research what you're reading. I teach from these books. Yeah. I don't believe in teaching just off the top of my head. I teach I like to be very factual, so you can apply it for yourself. So these are the books I use in my courses. Read them, buy them, invest in them, go on eBay, get them secondhand, Amazon, get them secondhand if you want. Highly recommended. So that's my recommendation for, I believe he keeps it in layman's terms. If that's not layman's terms enough for you, I would say check out the course. I've got a special surprise actually. If you can stay towards the end, I'm not going to keep too long. I'm giving away some free content. I've got an 8-part video series breaking down trust topics. I'm happy for you to check that out. I'll give that link out later on. And I've got some other content that I'm sure you'll find interesting. So that will hopefully break things down for you as well in layman's terms. So hopefully that's answered your questions, Stelios. Right, we've got some comments on here. So was this? Is it 51111 I was not quite sure how to pronounce that. Sorry, I'll just put it up on here. It says, "Hi Richard, can the course information help to redress the equity in our relations with state and private corporations?" In a nutshell, I would like to think so. I don't want to promise anything, but I do go into. We're teaching a session at the moment called Advanced Trust, where we're talking about the constructive trusts. I don't want to go into in too much detail, but it kind of breaks down in how I believe what's going on, and it kind of makes a lot more sense. So you can definitely check that out. I do have a 3-part teaching on YouTube, which kind of gives you an essence of what I'm teaching. That's on the YouTube channel. You can check that out as well. So you've probably seen it already since you're on YouTube at the moment. But yeah, I'd like to think so. Help redress the equity. When they say the redress part, I'm not into the whole, reclaiming back money and all that kind of stuff. Only because I've been trying it for the last 10 years. I was very angry and thinking, yeah, blah, blah, you know, I'm going to go through the system and all that kind of stuff. And I came to a conclusion that, you know what, we are infinite in wealth, and I'll live a lot longer life and happier life if I just focus on going forward than trying to go through what's happened to me or us in the past. So equity is very powerful. You can utilize it in many ways. It can be used positively. It can be abused. Not going to deny that. So from that point of view, if that's what your focus is on, I don't know if I can help you in that respect. But if you want to learn about trust and equity per se, and get a solid foundation in that, and to my opinion, a lot of people believe that it's been good training, then I certainly would say check it out. But if it's going for the redress and promising to get money back and all that kind of stuff, I'd say no. I don't want to mislead you in any way, shape or form. That's not really my forte, unfortunately. So I hope I've answered the question okay. Right, any other questions? No? Okay, so back to the group. So Angela's asked, what is the purpose of setting up a private trust, or the benefits of setting up a private trust? In fact, let me write the question out. That will be helpful for everybody. So this is Angela. Okay, so Angela has asked the question, and she says, what is the purpose of setting up a private trust? Again, apologies for my doctor's handwriting. A private trust, that was part A of the question. And so benefits. And then she's asked what types of trusts can be set up. So I'll try and answer as best I can. What types of trusts can be set up? Okay, so and do you have to pay monthly, annually? That part I'm not quite sure what it means, but I'll do my best to answer. So right, so first part, what is the purpose of setting up a private trust? Two words: ownership and control. Now that's any trust, but private trust specifically is you're, in my opinion, you're outside of the whole public realm. So you can set up your own trust privately for private purposes, not for taxation or money and that kind of stuff. I'd stay away from that. But for your own personal possessions and interests, you have control and you have ownership, and that's the beauty of it. So you don't want to be an owner, because that's why we get in trouble, but you do want to have control. All right, so it's definitely control versus ownership. That's always been the big struggle, yeah. And so if you operate with trusts, private trusts, or any type of trust, but private trusts, I do. If you understand how it works, and I always say, if you learn the rules of the game, then you can play the game better. It just helps you to, your thinking, especially for financial exercises, commercial exercises. It really put you in a better position, because you're understanding that, well, do I want to be a controller, or do I want to be an owner? And we're always taught to be the owner, but the thing is, if you own stuff, that's why you're getting beaten up all the time. Okay, and everyone's coming to you because, oh, we see you own that, right? We're going after you. Whereas if no one knows you have any ownership, but you have control, so you're going to be a beneficiary or potentially a trustee, depending on what you're trying to achieve, then control is where you want to be, right? And so it's trusts that give you that choice. All right. So that's the real benefit for being involved with trusts and understanding how trusts work and utilizing trust. In my opinion, I can prove it, maybe not today, but I can definitely prove it, that the whole of our financial system operates under the notion of a trust. Our banking system, everything operates under trust. So if you get how trusts work, you can play the game better. I'm not saying you're trying to beat anything or beat a system or nothing like that, but rather than us getting beaten up all the time, maybe we can just participate a bit better, handle ourselves a little bit better, keep our noses down, get on with our lives without having to get caught up in so much crap. No, excuse my French, but sometimes it is just a matter of a bit of knowledge can help us make better choices, yeah, and deal with situations a lot better than making lots of noise and blowing lots of hot air and not seeing any results, which has been my experience. And a lot of my members have said the same thing. And once they've understood how the game works, you get a lot more peace, a lot more results. All right. So that's the first part of the question. And is what types of trust can be set up? A private trust is just a private trust. On the public side, there's loads of different types of trust. I don't really want to talk about the public side, but the main thing is understanding for any trust, you need to have an intent. You need to have a clear purpose for setting the trust up with an intention of, why do you want the trust to be set up? As long as those two marry in such a way that it works out, that you're something called clean hands. Okay, you're not trying to do harm to anyone, defraud anyone, we restrict from any government, especially. Then effectively that's where you want to go. All right. The moment that equity sees you not operating with clean hands is when we would get ourselves in problems. But as long as equity sees that you're having an intention to do something for like your children, okay, with a purpose specifically to create a trust, pretty much always the case, okay. Once you have that purpose to create a trust and your intention is to benefit someone else, then that trust will work, and that's the benefit of it. Okay, so it's separating you from this public system that we're used to. We have to operate in it. There's no choice. As soon as you step out your front door, you're operating in that realm. So learn how to operate in that realm correctly. We're not taught that at school. We're not taught that necessarily by our parents or our friends. We're trying to figure our way out. That's probably why you found my page somehow. So let's figure it out together. Okay, it's not an anti-system or anti-whatever. It's just very much learning the rules of the game and playing that game far better. And if you understand how trusts work through administration, then number one, you can always recognize the relationships commercially that you may be getting involved with. So whatever you do as a profession, some people are into property or some kind of business, or whatever you do in employment, especially in employment, you can recognize what's been asked of you. And even those who are asking things of you may not know what they're doing, but instantly you'll start to realize, well, what kind of commercial relationship am I getting myself into? Who's approaching me? Is this an agency relationship? Is this a debtor-creditor relationship? Things that we talk about. Is it something that's asking of me that I don't necessarily want to get myself involved in? Am I being made or construed to be made a trustee? Is that what I want? Okay, and then we can look to address that if you don't like it. And so these are the kind of things that you can use trust for, as well as using it to protect and ring fence. So I did a teaching talking about the trust and straw man bridge. If you don't understand what the straw man is, don't worry about it. Call it the trust and straw man bridge. And I think that's what a trust does. It kind of bridges the gap between this fictional entity and this real entity. It bridges the gap. Absolutely. If you're interested, let me know. I'll try and give you access to that training. It might even be in a Facebook group if I recall. But yeah, let me know, and I'll try and get that training to you. It's a webinar I did. So yeah, so that it really just kind of bridges the gap between the two. And I think that's why I love trust so much. It just allows you to separate your private self to your public self. So to me, those are the benefits. Okay. Right. So a couple of comments coming up here. So Rich, could you type the books you just recommended? You know what? That's a really good idea. Thank you for that. Let me just do that now very, very quickly. Thank you. That Michael Sudra. Yeah, let me do that right now. So for equity and trusts. So let me start again. So recommended books. And everything's in plain sight, you see. That's the beautiful thing about it. So, using eminent professors who teach in law schools and lecture in universities, and they're teaching it already. So it's not like it's rocket science or anything. It's just understanding what's being said. So equity and trusts. I hope you can read my writing. Sorry, by Alastair, Alastair Hudson. Any edition. Okay, any edition. All right. but don't get bogged down on the addition on that book. He talks about trust very well. In my opinion, he's got some good content on YouTube. If you want to YouTube him, find out he got some free. He used to have some videos out. They may still be there. So that's the first book, and then the second book I recommended. Okay, recommended books. Was I'd say probably one of my favorite authors is Gary Watts. This is Watt OS, and this particular book, this is a real basic book, but he explains it very well. It's called Equity and Trust Law Directions. Okay, Equity and Trust Law Directions. Okay, if you want something a little bit more, I would say fascinating, if you don't mind the extra reading, recommended books by Gary Watt, which is this one. I'll just show you first and put the camera back on. Trust and Equity by Gary Watt. This book, right, there's a chapter in it. Well, it's all good, but it's a chapter. He talks about the early beginnings of trust, and he talks about the Earl of Oxford case. Now, if you can get your just really dig deep into the Earl of Oxford case, it will blow you away. It will blow you away. I mean, one of my favorite quotes, if I can, and let me not get carried away too much, yeah? Yeah, Earl of Oxford case. I don't want to read the whole thing out. I did a whole teaching on this, but I've highlighted it. It says, but Ellesmere, Lord Ellesmere, right, who was basically pro-equity. Okay, the long story cut short was, there's equity in the law have always been at loggerheads. There's always been a fight, okay? And there's a guy named Lord Coke who was pro the law, and law is very strict and about the letter, yeah? And then you've got Lord Ellesmere who's pro-equity, and equity is all about the spirit of the matter. And effectively what Lord Ellesmere did, he basically corrected, someone basically got done wrongly under the law, and equity went to correct it by dealing with the individual who made the accusation rather than the law that made the judgment. So Lord Ellesmere says, basically quoted, said that Lord Ellesmere reasoned that his injunction, which is to stop a thing from taking place, so he stopped the law from going ahead against this person because it was deemed to be wrong, so equity got involved. So Lord Ellesmere reasoned that his injunction did not offend the common law, the law of the land of today, okay? Okay, he didn't offend the common law courts, yeah? He argued that it merely operated in personam, which means against the individual, right? Not against the system, against the individual. Equity is all about the conscience and your mindset and how you treat other people, yeah? So, and if it's wrong, equity will try to correct it, all right? Even if it means putting you into prison till you have a sound mind, equity will do that. So, because he argued that it merely operated in personam against the conscience of the person who had been successful at common law. Now, if you can just get your head around that, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful reading, in my opinion. I don't want to get carried away. So this book by Gary Watt, it's just called Trust and Equity, and he breaks it down. He's a proponent of equity, in my opinion, and he really does explain it very well. So it's just called Trust and Equity. All right, I don't want to get carried away, but it's a beautiful, beautiful chapter in that book, and that he goes into. So there's 3 books that you can check out. All right, so great question. I really appreciate you asking that. And then we got some more questions coming through. So JC's asked, I've just written up a trust to protect my daughter's info pertaining to birth, so I don't have to register her. And I've sent off documents to register. Any advice? Well, I don't really give advice. And it's a tough one. I'll be honest with you. Just see how you get on. That's all I'm going to say publicly. All right. If the whole thing is a choice at the end of the day, and I'm sure there's people who have got away and are still living today and they've never been registered. So I'm not going to say yes or no. If you made that decision, let me know how you get on. But I'm not going to give you advice, especially on Facebook or in YouTube. That's not going to happen. But all the best. I'm not going to say don't do it. I'm not going to say go ahead and do it. But the fact that you're using a trust and you're thinking along those lines, let's see how you get on. All right. But sorry, I can't be more specific. But you know how it goes. Right, Gorby. I don't know, how does the trust financial work? Trust account, bank account. Can a trust open a private trade bank? Ooh. I know there's certain things called you can open a trust bank account to assist the trust itself. Definitely, that's without a doubt. I don't know about trust financials. I mean, that's basically no different to a corporation running their books. The trust will do it the exact same way, but for a trust. Okay, and the main thing about trust is everything's separate and I call it special. So we just keep things separate to your normal everyday running of anything else. So that's the basics of how trust financials would work for certain. Can a trust open a private trade bank? I don't understand the question. You mean bank account? Yes, if it's a bank account, absolutely. Depending on what the trust is doing, but if a trust exists, that's certainly possible. Obviously, depending on the jurisdiction where you reside, but as far as I'm aware, it's certainly possible. But definitely do a bit more research around that, without a doubt. Yeah. Trust bank account. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I know over here it's certainly possible to open a trust bank account. The only thing that makes a trust bank account, now there's case law to support this. I ain't got time to go into it, but you can open any bank account and call it a trust account. Okay, you don't have to have a trust bank account. Now, some people will argue with me, but again, there's case law to support it. All right. First one that springs to mind is Paul versus Constance. Yeah. Story of that case, sorry my handwriting, was Mrs. Paul. Okay, Mrs. Paul and Mr. Constance. Right now, Mrs. Paul was just, I guess, was a mistress to Mr. Constance, who was married. And back in those days, wasn't really a popular thing to do. Anyway, I'm not judging the guy. So he's married, but he's with a mistress called Mrs. Paul, and they did things together, like go to bingo back in those days and plan holidays and plan to do things together. Now, because he was already married, he couldn't open a joint account with him and Mrs. Paul, but he opened an account under his name, and it stresses in the case for you and I, okay, for Mrs. Paul and for Mr. Constance. So all their bingo winnings went in there, enough to go on a holiday, do nice things and enjoy their time together. Then Mr. Constance passed away. So then Mrs. Constance says, right, well, that money's mine. I'm paraphrasing, so go and Google it yourself. Or if you get Hudson's book, he explains it very, very deeply. Okay, so Mrs. Constance now challenging Mrs. Paul because she wants the rest of those money in the account, even though it's in his name. But how that worked out, okay, is that I'm going to draw my infamous triangle, that Mr. Constance was a settlor, okay, Mr. Constance, so he created the account. He acted as trustee, okay, because he said for you and I, so he's acting as trustee, so that's Mr. Constance, okay, with the bingo money in there, all right, bank account, for the beneficiaries, Mrs. Paul and Mr. Constance, all right? So no one else can be interfere with this. It's a trust, okay? For the beneficiaries, and Mr. Constance is acting as a trustee on behalf of the beneficiaries. And the judge ruled in favor of Mrs. Paul, saying, no, the money is hers. And even commented that even a person of unsophisticated character was able to administrate a trust. And he didn't deliberately go out to create a trust, but equity saw his actions and his intent. Remember I said about intention, okay, and your was it intention and your purpose? Okay, as long as those two are fair enough, a trust will always defend you. And the judge ruled in favour of Mr. Mrs. Paul, that their money was hers and not the estranged wife of Mr. Constance, because a trust was in place and it was her winnings, even though Mr. Constance had passed away. So that's case law number one. There's other case laws with commercial bank accounts and everything else that you, in that book that I mentioned, you will find it, that you can use a general bank account, but it's no longer general if it is, the point I'm trying to make after all that is for a specific purpose. The moment that you use the word special or specific, set apart, unique, okay, special, purpose, all right, or specific, but the moment you start operating that realm, so you're not using it for doing your general Tesco shopping or Sainsbury's or whatever, it's for the trust purpose and the trust purpose only, and you document it, and it's only for that reason, okay, and you're only one person's accessing it, i.e. the trustee, not everybody. It's a trust account. Equity looks at the substance, what you're doing, not the letter. Remember that, all right? So at the end of the day, technically speaking, and I've just proved it to you, any bank account can actually act as a trust account, but there are specific trust accounts that banks create as well. All right, so I hope that answers the question, just to clear that part up. Okay. Right, where are we? Loads of questions as you come in. Dr. Higher education books recommend, done that. Just Unit Trust, done that. Just Financial Works, done that. Okay. Does it need a second witness or should it be notarized? I prefer to keep it private. Well, notary. What's different? There's two things here. Okay, we got notary and then we've got notary public. Now, which they're both public, but a notary public is an actual office. Okay, someone's acting in that capacity, and it brings anything you do privately into the public. A notary is just an individual, so you need two good men, women. Okay, because in the eyes of two or three witnesses, let every matter be established. So to get two facts to be truthful, you need two independent witnesses. So you can have individuals, or you can have a notary public who acts the same capacity as two individuals. Ultimately, if you want a document remaining private, then you don't want to notarize it. That's the long and short of it. Okay, so you can have a certificate which evidences the private matter. Okay, so if we got a certificate of birth, well, it's not the actual property, is it? It's just a certificate evidencing something private took place. So you can have a certificate or an affidavit, okay, that says, well, this matter exists, this trust exists, but it's not the trust itself. So the public knows that the trust exists, it's just not divulging what the trust is. Does that make sense? Okay, so you don't have to notarize the actual trust. That makes it public for everyone to see, which will defeat the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, I'm assuming. Right, so can I pay my sweat equity slave token? Not going to answer that question. I understand you have to have a private correspondence. Do you have a private correspondence? Well, I don't understand the question. I mean, you had to contact me. You can just send me an email, admin, if that's what you mean. I'm not quite sure. But if you want my email address, it's admin@WGE revamped, VEAMP, for Papa ed.com. All right, that's my email address. Lion Shares asked, oh, he's answered the question. Swiss Trust Company can be done away. Okay, no problem. I don't own many possessions, so can knowledge about equity help to control relations with local authorities, banks? Absolutely, yes, indeed, without a doubt. Great info. Thank you so much, JC. I really appreciate that. No problem at all. Right, so back to the other question. Oh, I researched some info some years ago, and found Swiss trusts do have their own banks, don't have 250 grand to start off with. Yeah, trust accounts do ask for a lot of money up front. But yeah, good point. I thank you for that, line share. Appreciate you sharing that. Right, so back to the Facebook group. I'll answer the questions. Now, I can't answer this one. I'll read it out. So Tina Louise has basically asked about Rolex. I didn't know, actually. I'm learning something new here. So she says that Rolex, this is Tina Louise. As asked, basically, is Rolex a private trust and foundation? I don't know. I've never even thought about researching Rolex, even though you don't hear them mentioned on a rich list or on stocks and shares. So that actually is a private corporation. I'm imagining just like the Waltons. They're a private establishment, but they're super rich. They don't publicly publish their wealth. Is Rolex a private trust and foundation? They very well could be. I don't know. That's my honest answer. Trust and foundation. So that I'm sorry, I can't answer the question. I don't know. I hold up my hands to that one. And if so, would it be possible to mirror their structure for starting something in the UK? It possibly could be, but I don't know how they function. I've never researched that. Something you can look into without a doubt. Foundations definitely exist for a purpose, so you can research that. But I really wish I could answer that question, Tina, but I don't know. I'm sorry about that. I do apologize. Okay, and that seems to be all of the questions. And I don't want to be here all night either, keeping everyone up, but I do appreciate everyone who's jumped onto the live. Yep, there's no public accounts, so they're definitely acting privately. There's a few companies that do that, and absolutely, why not? Yeah. So they're obviously structured in such a way that they don't want to publicly print their wealth and their earnings, and everyone has the right to do that if they don't want to go public on a stock exchange, which is probably a sensible thing to do. They've been going for generations, I imagine. So that's very interesting, very, very interesting, actually. Do a bit of research on that. So Moabites said, it's true, all staff are in trust. That's fantastic. Good on you, Rolex. They understand the game. You're welcome, Gorby. How many beneficiaries can be in a trust? As many as you need. There's no real limit to that. Administratively, it'll be a lot of work, but I don't believe there's a limit to how many beneficiaries can be in a trust. Not at all. Darian, how do I get my scaffolding company out of the system? Oh, that's a loaded question. I don't necessarily. Now, it's not answering your question, Darian. I do apologize, but we can definitely follow Rolex's example if you know how they operate. All I can say to this is learn the rules of the game. I certainly can't answer that on this live, and then you can play the game. Okay, I don't know if you've ever watched Raymond Reddington in the Blacklist. I love that program. Just watch what he does. Everything's in plain sight. Yeah, off-grid businesses. I think that's something that it's amazing how they do it. I'm sorry I can't answer the question directly, Darian. I don't want to be disappointed, but I can't really answer that on here. I can't be giving that type of advice either, really. But I'm sure there are ways and means of getting it done. So Gorby says, I heard Rolex, is private trust. The employees are trust benefit. That's amazing. Didn't know that. Okay. How do you claim from your... No, I don't teach that stuff. Sorry, Darian. How do you claim from your live birth certificate? I don't get involved with that at all. I just don't think it's necessary to go down that road. I mean, here's the reason why I don't think it's necessary, right? If someone gave you £2 million, assuming you're not already a millionaire, £2 million today, how would you even spend that first and foremost? I know in your mind you'd say that, and then it's not an accusation. You may agree with me, may not agree with me, but most people don't even know how to handle that kind of money in a lump sum. Okay, it takes a bit of an education. Number two, if you want to operate in a private, in that private world, do you know how to operate in that private world? Most people would say, no, they don't. And they're probably getting themselves into trouble. So quite frankly, do I endorse it? No, I don't. I don't. If you know how to do it, number one, I certainly wouldn't be broadcasting that because it's private, right? So you're kind of treading on toes that you don't want to be treading on. It's a code at the end of the day. So me personally, I don't teach that stuff. I think you're just chasing after something that it's bigger than you and I. All I teach is understanding how trust works. Okay, learn the rules of the game, play the game better within the system that we're in. All right, we don't have to get beaten up and battered all the time. I don't. Anything else outside of that, I stay clear of. And you know, if you don't like it, no problem. But at least you know up front. I'm not going to promise the world, and then 3-4 years later, you're still trying and getting disappointed and empty promises. I've been down that road, and I don't believe it anymore. So, yeah, sorry about that. That's my stance. So where are we? Yeah, so that's it. So look, at the end of the day, you know, thank you for all your questions, and you lasted to the end, which is fantastic. So, got a bit of a gift for you. If you are interested in learning more, then where are we? Darren says, honestly, yep, that's my position. 10 years ago, maybe not. But today, that's my honesty. Okay, no dramas. Yeah, that's my conclusion. I'm not fighting will just make look. I've already got grey hair. I want to live a long life and be happy. So yeah, that's my stance. Anyway, let's move on. So if you want to learn more about private trust, I got this. I did a challenge last year called the Once Challenge. Own Nothing, Control Everything Challenge. Now, if you're going to get part of that, what I did is 3 days learn how to create a private trust. But that was my mission, my mandate, and in 3 days we learned how to do that. So that was all recorded. So I'd like to get that to you. So can't get it all to you today, but what I can do is, if you're interested, you're going to be on a waiting list, and then I can stay in touch with you and let you know when I can get you those videos. Okay, absolutely free. Absolutely free. I'm not charging for it. It was free before, and it'll be free again. But I just need to get it to you. That's the thing, and I can't do that today. But if you express your interest and just put your name on a list, plus you enjoyed, as I said, some special bonuses in the meantime, then I'll be in touch with you, and then you can enjoy that free of charge, no problem whatsoever. So if you're interested, I'm going to put the link here, and then you can check it out. And if you're on the replay, feel free to check that. I'll leave it up for a few days, maybe till, was it Thursday, and then I'll take it down. So it is, I'll just get the privatetrustguy.com/once challenge. Okay, let me just make sure it's the right link. Here we go. I'm going to put that in the comments right now, and then I'll leave it up for you to write that down. Check that out for yourself. And if you're on Facebook, I'll write it out for you just in case it's not showing up on Facebook. So it's www.the let me just try and write neater. The private trust guy, no spaces, .com/ONCE, own nothing, control everything, once challenge. Okay, challenge, CHALLENGE. All right. Just jump on there, name and email address. That register you for, so I can stay in touch with you, let you know when the challenge is going to be, and I'll send you the link so you can check it out free of charge, no charge whatsoever. It's just for your enjoyment and learning, and to say thank you for just spending some time with me today. All right. Other than that, brilliant questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for these last 45 minutes or so. If you're not part of the Facebook group and you're not anti-Facebook, feel free to check it out. If not, put a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. I really appreciate it. And I'll try and put out more content more frequently going forward. I'll do my best. Okay. You're very welcome. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Darian. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Yeah. So much appreciation. So I'll leave that up there for just a bit longer. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your evening or day wherever you are around the world. If you're on the replay, leave a comment. I'll look forward to reading them later on. Michael Suja, thank you so much. And back to you. I appreciate your time. You didn't have to hang out with me, but you did. So much appreciated. Thank you so much. I do appreciate your kind words, everyone. All right. Appreciate you all. Enjoy your evening or day wherever you are. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.